Hi, I'm Aiman, and welcome back to one of my auto repair videos. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to remove the CV axle nut or the drive shaft nut without using an impact wrench. The reason this video is important is because if you jack the car up, which you need to do to access the CV axle nut, it'll just spin if you try to loosen it. Which is why this is important, because even if the CV axle is going to spin, this is going to overcome it and easily be able to take it out. But if you don't have an impact wrench, although I highly recommend you get it because it is pretty useful and pretty convenient, although it costs about $200 when we bought it, and if you do buy it, then we'll put a link down to it in the comments down below. But if you don't have this useful impact wrench, there is a way to do it manually. Alright, so let me explain the process so you can see why the impact wrench might be worth getting. There's also the option of renting it, I should mention. But to access the CV axle nut, you need to take off this center cap. And usually on most cars, you can remove the center cap in many ways. The most popular one is to use a suction cup to pull it out. However, in this case, there's an emblem, so there's no way for us to get a section on this cap. So the only way for us to do this, and I trust me, I've tried using a pry bar, I've tried using a prying tool, I've tried using duct tape, and I've even tried using these O-ring tools, and you can see I've actually damaged the tire a tiny bit. So take it from me, don't make the same mistake I did if you don't want your car to be ruined. The only way to do this on this car is to take the tire out and knock it from the inside, and then put it back on, because for you to do this manually, the tire can't spin. So you have to put the tire back on just for you to access the CV axle nut. So if you don't have a hydraulic jack, which I highly recommend you get, especially if you're doing jobs like these, I have a video on how to use a manual jack to lift your car up. But if you are using a manual jack, make sure that before you lift it up, you actually loosen the lug nuts, the nuts on this tire, so that you can take it out. Okay, so now that I've loosened the nuts on the tire, I'm going to lift it up a bit more, just to give myself a bit more room to take the tire out. Okay, I think this is enough. I'll show first off. Actually, no, they're already loosened, so I'll just take them out. And this is going to take me a bit of time, so instead, I'll show you why this is so convenient. And look, easy as pie. There we go, pretty handy. All right, and then usually if it's seized, you can like knock the tire a bit to get it to come out, but as you can see, this one come off pretty easily. And now we have access to the interior of the tire. So removing the center cap is pretty simple as just taking something to knock it out. And there we go. Now I want to bring your attention to the CV axle nut. This is what we're trying to remove, and it's a pretty big nut. And in fact, it requires a 36mm socket in order to take out. Now these sockets are pretty expensive, although you can rent a set of them for about $10. They are pretty costly, so it's nice to just have a set on hand. But some cars are, this car is 36mm, some other cars might be 30mm, but as you can see, this has a set of the common sizes. Now, I mentioned earlier that we might need to put the tire back on, just to make sure that the shaft doesn't spin while we're trying to take it out. But I'm curious, because the passenger side is on the ground, if this will spin while we try to take it out. So I'm going to try to do that, but before we try to take it out, we have to make sure that this little notch here that's knocked in to prevent the nut from coming off is hammered back out. So right here I have a screwdriver, and we're just going to get in here in this little slot that's actually the size of a screwdriver and pry it out. You don't explicitly have to use a hammer to do this, although you should definitely use a disposable screwdriver for this because it will get bent. And in the case that you might not have enough strength to pry it, then you can try using a hammer. Dang. I know I can get that out. That's unfortunate. So, part of the point of my videos is to show you guys that it's not always an easy job. In this case, we are foiled by a pretty fragile screwdriver. You think we can still use this? This one. And I think it's about enough that we can take it out, but yeah, I think it's about enough that we can take it out. Now we're gonna try to take it out using a breaker bar. So try to get the longest length bar you have, because this is at least 130 foot-pounds. I think on some cars it actually goes up to 180. So try to get the one that is the longest to give you most leverage, and give it a try. Right? My dad just saw the jack move, so to be safe, we're going to put the tire back on and show you how we originally intended to do it. Alright, so now the tire's going back on, but this time without the center cap. And now we want to put the nuts back on. We don't have to tighten them fully, just enough for them to be snug. Yeah, we don't have to torque them, thankfully. And it's the tedium of this that makes you see why a impact wrench or some sort of power tool would be a pretty helpful investment. And you want to tighten in the start pattern. I mean, actually I guess not, because you're not torquing it, but alright. Now what we're going to do is we're going to lower the jack. Okay, so now that I've lowered the jack, now that the tire's on and that the axle can't spin, I'm going to go ahead and try to take out the CV axle. Now, if it's more rusted, you can try putting PB Blaster on it, which helps, and we've actually done that right here. And we're going to give it a try. All right. All right, so clearly I don't have enough leverage to take this out. So we're gonna try to give myself some more leverage by increasing the length of that bar. Okay, so I'm just gonna take the bar from my jack, or you can take whatever works for you and loop it around. Make sure it has enough length for it to work properly. Righty tighty, lefty loosey. Just double checking. There we go. 130 to 180 foot-pounds is crazy. But with the power of leverage, you can move the whole world. So now, we're actually able to take out the CV axle nut. And when I take it out, I'll show you what it looks like with it off. Now, if you want to replace the CV axle, then go back to my video on how to do it. Or if you haven't seen it yet, go check it out. But there we go. And there is the CV axle. But that's it for now. I'm Aiman, and today I showed you how to remove the CV axle nut without using power tools. In the case that you don't have access to a power tool, like this impact wrench, which I highly recommend. I know I did use it to take out the lug nuts, but you can totally do that without using this. This just made it faster. Anyway, that's gonna be it for this video. If this video helped you out, please let me know in the comments down below. And please like, rate, comment, subscribe, and look at other videos on EyeOnAiman, especially the videos on auto repair and on the CV axle job. I'm Aiman, and signing out. Peace.